The roundtable was around AV consultants, architects, and end users, or AV users, we should say, responsible for those spaces. And it was really good discussions going on. One of the really interesting comments I found was, when participants, or when people start traveling to offices, how it should become actually more of a visitor experience, which was quite interesting. But actually, you can see a lot of sense in that. So that was really cool. But also about how the way things are progressing currently, how what you get from meeting physically to what you don't get meeting virtually. So things like you'll meet somebody. And somebody said this already, who said, when you meet someone, you ask them things like, how was your journey? You might talk about the weather and stuff like that. And that helps the breakdown of any barriers and stuff that you've got prior to actually going into that full-on meeting. And there's all sorts of things that can happen before and after a meeting, obviously, that you can learn about people individually and that sort of thing. So that was really, really interesting. One of the other really good takeaway comments I picked up was, especially when you've got departmental conversations. So where you won't necessarily go out of your way to talk to somebody, but you might bump into somebody in the canteen, for instance, or down the corridor, and you might have a quick catch up. And then you might just talk about a little bit of work and say, oh yeah, I'm facing this challenge. And that person from a totally different department might turn around and say, oh yeah, well, we actually had the same sort of thing and we solved it by doing this. Mm-hmm. And, we're not seeing that sort of conversation happening right now. One of the key things actually is probably to make the flexibility work for the user. You want it to be as easy for them to be able to work in that space completely. On the outset, you might think, oh, somebody wants a flexible space. Does that mean we need different equipment in the room for different scenarios? And that could implement the fact that actually that user probably needs somebody a bit more technically minded to be there to, maneuver the right kit into the right space. However, if we can, box clever, maybe system design clever, we can put solutions in there that are compatible for all of the different sort of flexible solutions. Our ceiling microphone, for instance, is one such device. You can utilize that in totally different flexible spaces without having the need to change any of the settings, because you set it up once for a space and then you can do what you want in that space. With other products, they're sort of fixed beams that you have to allocate, and then if you move your furniture around, you've got to reprogram those, that you can take quite a while to do. With the Sennheiser one, there's some patented Sennheiser software in there, which actually allows that beam to be flexible. So it actually follows the loudest sound. So you're not pinpointing a specific space. You can actually eliminate areas if you want to. So if you've got noisy air conditioning and stuff like that, you can eliminate that. But as far as the user's concerned, let them be free in a space. And that ceiling microphone does exactly that. It follows them wherever they want to go. They can express themselves in the meeting and so forth. Who are we to tell people to sit in one place in a meeting room? That's something wrong if we as technology people are doing that. We need to be more fluent and adaptive to the user's needs, basically. Absolutely. We still have quite a lot of optimism based around what potentially will come. Yes, in the short term, while people will trickle in, and people will trickle into the office, we do know that, not everybody can stay working from home all of the time. And we know some people can't work from home all of the time. So, we do know that people will need to get back into the office to some level. And equally, just from a professional point of view, I think when you're doing business to business meetings, a lot of people might want to have a team in a space to then call a different team in another space. So we don't see the end of that happening at any time soon at all. So we understand the importance around that. But the short term aspect is, the capacity of those meeting rooms is obviously going to be different. So where you might have a 12-person meeting room, you're probably looking at 6-person meeting room for the time being, and then steadily, as maybe the antidote works, if that starts to be successful and people can start getting back into more capacity room use, that will obviously help. But yes, we can definitely see a need for bigger meeting rooms actually being used by a smaller number of people, which then makes the small huddle space potentially a 1-person space. But yeah, that's to be seen. But certainly the medium to large rooms should still get used fairly regularly, I would have thought. People have actually got more attuned to not putting up with poor audio. I think we've certainly seen on our consumer side a big increase in consumer headsets being sold, specifically because people are now working from home, utilizing those same headsets on their computers. Some people might not realize a lot of Sennheiser consumer headsets can actually be utilized with your professional audio equipment. So you can have the best of both worlds, great communication for office work, and then enjoy your music afterwards as well. But that certainly, I think, has brought the opposite reaction in terms of when they go back into the office, where they might have put up with poor audio previously. I think they'll be more attuned to actually asking for better quality audio in the office place, as they've got more into it, understanding of what's going on at home. For instance, yes, I'm on a speakerphone with you right now, but if I had some kids making noises in the background, that's the other element that comes into it. Your background noise, what's happening there. From a video aspect, obviously, is what's going on in your background as well. But if I've got noise going on, I've got the flexibility to switch to a headset, which then brings my mic closer to my mouth. But that's because I've got the ability to switch between technology. My first choice is to go head-free, hands-free every time where possible. But yeah, definitely going back into the office, I believe that, and a number of us believe that actually people will become a little bit more picky. And especially, when you think that the messages that you're talking about are worth thousands and thousands of pounds worth of business, or even millions and millions of pounds worth of business, you want to emphasize and get your message across as clearly as possible. So, yeah, why not use the best quality of audio equipment to do that?